Here's Mike Winters.
And good morning. It is 36 minutes after 7 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning from the city of Roswell. I would say he's filling in for Kevin today, but your day job's, I guess, in the property division of the city of Roswell.
Yes.
Todd Verciglio of The Hobbit back with us. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Not too bad for Wednesday.
Good deal.
We're about halfway through this week. So.
Yeah, it's all downhill from here.
Yes.
So, and Halloween weekend coming up.
That's right. Right. Get your candy on.
Yeah. Get your grub on, get your eat on, and there's lots of, like we said, we just had Waymaker Church on, but that's one of many that are going to be going on around the city of Roswell over really 3 days.
Yeah, I saw the list on one of the Facebook pages, and it was, it was full Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, like. There's so much going on. So anybody who says there's nothing to do in Roswell, yeah, just
here's 4 days of nothing to do.
Exactly. Just get out there. It's there.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of things happening in and around Roswell, of course, Kevin Mavers, the development director, he joins us at this time each month because it's usually the day after the planning meeting, the city planning and zoning meeting.
Yeah.
And so Kevin's kind of just gives us those updates on some of the new businesses that come before him, and like a lot, like obviously over the summer here, a lot of it was talking cannabis and the various businesses that were going through the process of getting their licensures and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of slowed down a little bit, I think. I
believe so. I think everybody who has made applications, they are on the very tail end of finishing up their process. If they're not already done. Last night I did not go to the planning and zoning meeting, but I think they had one item on the agenda, and that was, I think, some sort of text amendment that had to be presented for one of the previous cases. And I think that's finished.
Okay.
But
it wasn't sexy, exciting, riveting.
It was a very light night from what I understand. Stuff. There was only one item on the agenda.
Okay.
So, and then Kevin is he's out of town for the next 3 days representing the city at a conference, and you'll have to forgive me, but I don't remember the name of it. But it was important, and Kevin had been asked to speak, I guess, on the city's behalf to let some other outside folks know all of the good things that are going on and happening in and around Roswell.
Absolutely. But, things have been happening, even through COVID, we were still getting new businesses and new things. It's I don't know, it's kind of a unique thing for, the times dictate things should go this way, but we seem to sometimes not deal with some of those things.
I'm in that department, of course, and when a lot of our public services had to close, like the museum and the aquatic center, those kind of things, due to social distancing, we had set it up in community development department to still be able to, because business doesn't stop. So all of our business license applications, the building permits, lots of fence permits, curb
Life
cuts,
did go
sidewalks. Oh yeah, there were things that happened. And then since there wasn't a whole lot for people to get out and go do, a lot of people turned to their own backyard, so to speak. They were putting in, portable buildings and redoing fences and adding sidewalks and all of these different things. So we were still very, very busy
issuing permits and inspections and
for all of those. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious. So is that kind of what you do on your side of things now? Are you on that side of things, or
okay?
I'm genuinely curious what you do now at the city here. And I know you're in. You deal a lot with the development side, but I'm not exactly sure what that entails.
So community development has 5 departments.
Okay.
So we have the code enforcement department. We have the, of course, planning and zoning department. We have the business license department, the building inspections, and then there's the property division.
Okay.
So I head up property, and what I've got is all of the city's inventory. I had compiled all their information. They didn't have everything in one spot when I got there.
Okay.
So we, everybody's like, well, the city owns a lot of property. We do. We have about 367 parcels of property, most of which is made up from parks and then you've got your airport, and you divide it out into your fire stations, your
Landfills and all that.
landfill,
Yeah.
all of those things, little pieces of right of way and different stuff like that. So when you shake all of that out, the property that is not in use, and by the way, I don't take care of anything out at the air center. That is
That's
that is a
another
completely different
group of people.
group of folks. So I handle everything outside of the air center and the cemetery, because
Okay.
those two kind of run on their own.
They got their own
They do.
boards and their own set of people that kind of run things.
They do. So I take care of all of the. So after it all shakes out, we have about 97 to 100 blank parcels of land.
Okay.
Most of those parcels are your typical 50 by 100 foot lots. Sometimes they're right next to door to each other. Sometimes they're like these little piano key properties that kind of dot different areas in town. I've got them all over Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're needing for those properties is we are needing development
Okay.
to happen. And so I've got property lists. So if you are a contractor, a builder, somebody who is looking to build a second residence, you're a homeowner, you want to build your own home,
Gotcha.
we can walk you through that process of being able to help you obtain
Okay.
city-owned property that you can get for very inexpensive.
I was about to say, the city isn't in the business of trying to make money off real estate. Don't get me wrong.
No.
They don't want to lose a bunch of
Right.
money either. But they're not trying to do it. This isn't an investment opportunity for the city. They're trying to unload property
Yes.
so it clears. So that's less tax money they got to worry about, or less maintenance money and
Yes.
everything else involved in that property.
So what happens is, and we just did a public forum a few weeks ago where we talked with code enforcement and answered a lot of questions about city-owned property. Well, how does the city wind up owning a piece of property? So there's a lot of misconceptions about the condemnation process. Like, well, if there are problems or issues with your house, the city's going to come, they're going to red tag it, and man, they're going to tear that sucker down. So
You know how many years it takes for all that to happen?
it does not happen overnight. I'm here to debunk that.
Yeah.
We have a long and lengthy process
Yeah,
for
but
that.
usually there has been a lot of back and forth and refusal to comply, and,
Yes.
and many other facets before they get. So if it gets to the point where they're
Where we
seizing
have
property,
to take it down, yeah.
there was a lot of dialogue going back and forth before that happened.
Well, and I'll tell you this too, Mike. Just because the city clears out a house and takes it down, if it's structurally unsound, we've gone through all the time period. We don't have any communication with the property owner. Then it goes through the condemnation process, eventually goes in front of city council, and city council says, take it down.
Mm-hmm.
So we put it on the list, and even then it's a few months for one of our
Everything's glacial in
vendors
government.
to get to it.
Yeah.
So we go and we tear it down. Now, just because we tear it down does not mean that we automatically own it. We'll take, we just tore down a house, I'm going to say up on Pecan.
Okay.
Okay, so we took the house down, and then we get a bill from the contractor. We take that bill, and I go and I file a lien against that property
Okay.
for the amount of the teardown, plus like a $35 administrative fee, which covers our time preparing paperwork both on the front end and on the back end of filing and releasing a lien. So
Okay.
those fees are paid they're all included in one lump sum. So what happens sometimes is we'll send those letters out to every known address and hopefully get a hit back from a family member on it. A lot of times, though, Mike, the really sad part about this is we don't get any response back from anybody because let's say the property was in Grandpa's name and Grandpa passed away and he never deeded that property over to anybody who could manage it.
And so people don't even know it exists.
And
probably.
it's three generations of people removed. Now the great grandkids are alive and they're out there, but they have no idea this property exists.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea that there was even a house on it at one time. And they look at it and they go, we don't want it.
Right.
And we certainly can't pay the demolition costs
Yeah.
on that. So what are your options at that point?
You're stuck with it.
So you can be stuck with it. You can deed it over to the city in lieu of payment.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of paying a lien the construction cost amount, we can do a quick claim deed, and you can deed that property over to the city. Now the city has it. Now we can take it and put it back out and try to find somebody who's going to,
And I imagine that's the most common
house.
when, like in those
It
scenarios
is.
you're talking about. That's the most common.
It is the most
choice
common.
because they're like, unless the planet aligned and they said I was going to start a business or get a property, and all right, well that works out perfectly.
And I've had numerous people in the last 2.5 years pay off liens because it's a family property. It's it's been with the family forever. It's in a great location, their location. They want to keep it, so so this option 2, I can set you up on a payment arrangement with the city. We don't charge any finance fees or anything like that.
It's a pretty good loan, actually.
It's a pretty good loan. So, if it took $10,000 to knock down a house and you want to pay $100 a month until that's done, then you make an agreement with the city. Now, on the other side of that, if you break that agreement, then we're asking for the property again in lieu of payment.
Yeah, it's well, we're going to work with you, but
correct.
But you stop working with us.
But we don't. Our goal is not to come and take your property.
Sure.
We don't want it.
They don't want the responsibility as much as like those people that just let it go and said, I don't want to deal with this.
It's going to be better served for the community to have somebody put something back on that lot.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what happens with these vacant houses and the houses that nobody pays any attention to, they start to become havens for drugs and all kinds of nefarious things that happen.
Yeah, it is a lightning rod
calls,
for that.
ambulance calls, fire calls. Sometimes the structure's set on fire, and those kind of things. So it's like, those, then the city has a responsibility to board it up.
Yeah,
and take care of it in that respect.
And,
so,
and anytime you get into those scenarios, the neighbors are so thankful when the city comes in and says, you know what? They can't, because they're living there every day. They're seeing the crime, the drugs, the dangers that are going through, that are happening in their own backyards.
Yeah.
And who wants that?
Nobody
does.
wants that right next to them.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
Nobody does that at all. So one option is to quick claim a property over to the city. Option 2 is to make a payment arrangement with my office and let us know that you're going to take care of that. Or 3, do nothing at all, do neither A or B, and then our legal department will go and ask for a judge for that property in lieu of payment.
Yeah.
Because what the city wants to be able to do again is recoup our costs, but it's going to be a 50 to an 80-year lifespan on some of these houses that are loaded with asbestos and things like that. Those are $35,000, $38,000, $40,000 demolition costs. So, if you have a blank piece of property that Joe Public is selling and he's asking $5,000 for his property, and you have a city property that has a demo on it, and that lien is $40,000. Which parcel are you going to buy?
Right,
You're
exactly.
going to buy the $5,000 one.
Unless it's a location thing that you just have a great need for. But most people are going to pick the other. Yeah.
But what we can do in lieu of, again, that payment, if you want to be able to build something, if you're like, hey, I got plans, I can put a nice little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on that property, the city is going to get their money back over the lifespan of that house. We're going to plug them back into taxes and sewer and water.
So it's a win for the city.
It is a win for the city, and it's the very start of neighborhood stabilization. A lot of these neighborhoods, and I'll take mine for example. I live up on North Kansas area.
Okay.
When I moved here 15 years ago, my mindset was I'm going to buy the ugliest house on the street because I was in a house where I lived previous that was a little too much house. I was part of that group of folks that got talked into from the banks that said, you can afford this. Your credit's good.
Yeah.
You make plenty of money.
You can overstretch your budget for this nicer house. Yeah.
It was really tight. And so when I made my decision to move to Roswell, my choice was I'm buying the ugliest house on the street. So I bought something solid. It was inexpensive, but I had to do a lot of work. So we fixed it up. So we started with, gravel in the driveway, some grass, getting the outside of the house it was 4 colors at one time. We got it down to 1 color. We took 3 layers of shingles and that corrugated goat tin off the roof and put a lifetime metal roof on the house and really just kind of aesthetically cleaned up the outside of the house first. And what I've noticed over the last 15 years is there were about 6 houses on my street, just my little street, my little block street between 18th and 19th Street on North Kansas. And there is one house left in that neighborhood that they are currently working on. Somebody got it and they're working on it. But everybody in that neighborhood, up and down that street, has done something to improve their property.
There's nothing wrong with the keeping up with the Joneses mindset in certain aspects, and that's the positive side
and
of it.
it's good. And all of that activity generates GRT for the city.
Mm-hmm.
So if you calculate new activity, GRT, that's done by the neighbors from one house being built or one house being fixed, then again, the city's going to get their money back one way or another. It's just going to be over a longer extended period of time. And you're right. We're not looking to get rich on city real estate. Now, we do have city real estate that's worth some money, and we're going to get market value for that.
Sure. You're not. Yeah, we're also not doormats.
Exactly. But we want growth, and we need housing. We could drop 200 houses on the ground tomorrow, and there would still be a housing need in Roswell.
Yeah.
So
and as long as other neighborhood communities have housing needs, Roswell will have a housing need. As long as the dire straits of housing in Eddy County that goes on from time to time, that's always going to impact housing here.
People will take the commute from Roswell down to Carlsbad, or from Roswell even to Lovington or someplace like that. They'll live here and drive out to the oil patch or wherever they work.
And they do it every day.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we still need more of that here. We still need more housing here.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of my wheelhouse of what I do and where I work. Take care of our blank property.
Yeah.
Get it out in front of people who have the ability to do something with it. A lot of times we'll do a development agreement with that builder that says, hey, you've got, you say that you've got, 36 months.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to put a house down on this property. We're selling you this piece of city property on the cheap, because the benefit back to the city is the GRT and everything else that we wind up getting in the future for it. And as long as a developer follows their agreement, again, good job. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Here's the clear deed for that property. You own it now. They are free to sell it or rent it or do whatever they're going to do with it.
Your property. You do what you want with it.
And the happy part is the city has got one less piece of property to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so that,
and another, generating tax dollars, generating, money for the city.
So that in a nutshell is what I do every day.
Nice.
For the city. And then I, of course, wear a lot of other different hats too, because
it's the city.
It's the city. And so wherever they need help, we go.
Yeah. Well, and then that's always been, even during COVID, where you guys kind of, all right, we're going to move everybody as where the fires are happening at kind of situation. And let's face it, that's always, when you get small town, in Roswell is a big small town, but still a small town nonetheless. And even with there's that small town mindset of, these are the people, we just all go get these things done. Yes, we have our assigned divisions and departments and things.
The city usually once a year has we'll pick a department that is needing to get caught up, or they want to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much caught up, but they want to get ahead of where they're at. And I've done it, I believe, twice already, where it's a employee citywide day. You basically volunteer to change whatever department you came from, and you're going to work for this department. So I remember one year we were working for sanitation, and we cleaned up the whole little Hondo riverbed, from the museum all the way over to the disc golf course. We had teams of people that split up along that bike path, along that trail, picked up trash, cleaned out weeds, got rid of debris, and did that and we tackled in a day what would have taken a department, weeks to do. Because by the time you get to the end of the trail, you're going to turn around and walk it back the other way and clean it all the way back. So we hit the trail citywide, and it was everybody from folks from the water department to the museum to police department to Parks and Rec folks to administrative staff. It just everybody pitched in,
Yeah.
and we do that thing at least once a year, citywide, to help enhance our city.
Reach out to maybe our volunteer side, our Kathy Lays, and that if maybe your organization or business can do something similar for a cleanup event. And
Absolutely.
Kathy's probably the best person to
She
talk
is.
to about that, because she'll be the one, because she also runs the Keep Roswell Beautiful and all that. But in the volunteer program. But so if you're looking for projects, she kind of always has a list in her head of places around town that need projects.
Kathy will put you to work.
She's got them. So
Don't be afraid of Kathy, though. She is one of the sweetest ladies
absolutely
out there.
Yeah.
And if your business or organization is looking to do some volunteer work and you want to help the city do something, then Kathy's your gal for that.
Yeah, she does an amazing job of that. And internships and stuff, if you've got any high school, college age students or students that are looking for opportunities to intern at one of the city facilities, she's also the person you need to talk to about that. So maybe they go from the zoo to probably hanging out with Todd in his office too at some point.
Absolutely. Anybody who's interested in different facets of city government, or if you need an internship for various things, the city has those available too.
Absolutely. So reach out. Definitely. Good deal. Is there anything we were supposed to mention that we got sidetracked on, or do we get it all?
Let's see. I think we pretty much covered it. The only other thing that I wanted to cover was the condemnations. We talked about that at our public forum.
Yeah.
But I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on that if time permits.
We got about a minute and a half.
Okay.
So.
Well, really quick. Again, just because the city condemns a house does not mean that the city owns it.
Mm-hmm.
So come over to the code enforcement building there at 415 North Richardson, talk with the building officials, and because, again, just because the city condemns it doesn't mean that we own it. We're working with a property owner. Now, if that property owner is interested in selling that structure because you have the ability to do something with it and they don't, then that's a deal that you would work out privately with that property owner. And then once you pull all the proper permits and things and correct all the actions that need to be taken, then and only then will that condemnation go away once everything is fixed.
Gotcha. So, and that's just it. If you're involved in these situations, there's a lot of work that goes on between them with the city. So when you see these and people get upset, I'm like, well, opportunities were had on many, many different times before it got to this point. So please understand that you're seeing the end result of what happened. There was a lot of stuff that happened before it got on your radar.
Lots of steps that were taken before anything is brought down and hauled off. And then even on the other side of that, you'll have people who are upset because grandma's house got taken down.
Yeah.
But now you're going to have neighborhood folks that are like, well, thank goodness that place is gone, because now all of that crime and everything that was happening, they've got to go someplace else.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Mike.
We'll see you next time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You listen to 106.5 Roswell's Talk.